was to pay off your home. That was the old school mentality. I was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My family was from Italy. From Reggio Calabria, in Italian we say capatosta. Capatosta means we have a head like a floor. We don't listen to anything. True. My father used to say, you pay off your home. You make it secure for your family. So that if something happens, they have security. Now you're approaching a generation of an old school mentality, and you're saying to them, who either, like the couple we interviewed, didn't want to touch their retirement plan, but had a home that had equity, and you're saying to a generation that came from being taught by the greatest generation of all, that we want to take that asset that took years to pay off, or take that asset that has equity and say to them, we could give you some money and give you some security. At that point, you have to make them feel and understand that this is not a scary mechanism. This is not something to fear. But this is something to embrace. So how you talk to their heart, how you talk to their background and understanding is how you will sell this product to the baby boomer. Let me run you through a few things. For those of us in the room who are baby boomers, again, between 1946 and 1964, we remember those days. 76 million babies were born. And today they represent 29% of the population. Despite having the most disposable income, spend money on their children and aging parents. How do you beat the Southern California sun? How do you beat the feeling of the wind coming off the ocean? And then go find out how much it costs to buy a home and what the taxes are. And you say to yourself, how do young couples make it? How do young couples in San Francisco make it? In Manhattan, it's because most of them are being held by the baby boomers, the parents, who co-sign for their homes or guarantee their homes. We are such a vulnerable generation. It's remarkable how vulnerable we are. So when you sit down and you're speaking with a couple, you're speaking with people that we're looking at ourselves and saying we're 62, 65, 66 years old, and we're saying, why do I even have to go to this? I worked years to pay my house off. I encouraged my children to pay their house off. Why do I have to now tap into that? It is that what you have to understand, because you could sit and explain to them all day long. But it's how you make them feel when you leave the room. The 50s, Leave It to Beaver was, well, it was the show. It's still on MeTV. We grew up in the suburbs. There was wealth and health and consumer efforts. We met with friends. We sat down every night. And we had dinner together as a family. We didn't have a phone that was the fourth person in a three-person family. Dear God, my grandkids. Oldest is 11, the youngest is 3. I mean, they come to the house, I'm Papa, Lynn's Nona, try to speak to them in Italian a little bit. Say, they look at me like I'm from another planet. You know, it's unbelievable to me. Papa, I'm playing Minecraft. What the hell is Minecraft? What do you mean Minecraft? Oh, I'm talking with Maddie and well, where's Maddie and Luke? Well, they're at their home. I says, no, we're at the home. No, they're not in this home. No, they're at their home. It is a generation. Look, every generation is critical of the generation behind. But we all have to admit that we have become so codependent on technology. It is a blessing and a curse. I'm a huge, huge Gunsmoke fan, for those who remember Gunsmoke. So, James Arnaz is a guy I love who played Gunsmoke. Younger people here could care less about this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So, I was covering the Scott Peterson trial. I covered Jackson, Peterson, Casey Anthony, all that stuff. And I told a friend of mine that I always wanted to meet James Arnaz. So the verdict comes out on Scott Peterson, and I'm walking from the verdict to do something on Hannity, and I get a phone call from a woman by the name of Pam that says, Mr. Massi, your friend Karen said you wanted to meet James Arnaz. He'd love to say hi to you. And I'm in the middle of like 3,000 people in Northern California trying to figure out how I'm going to pull this thing off. So I walk in the middle of these two buildings, and for 15 minutes I talk to James Arnaz, Matt Dillon, those of us who know, on Gunsmoke. And I have it recorded every day, and I know every single person on there. As a matter of fact, Buck Taylor, who played Newley, is a friend of mine who lives in Texas. He and Burt Reynolds, believe it or not, Burt Reynolds was the original person on Gunsmoke when it was black and white. No information you even care about, I understand. So now we get to the 60s. So here we are. Whenever my kids, I'd be critical, they would pull out pictures of Woodstock and say, Dad, how could you possibly be critical of the way we dressed or the way we walked? I remember I came home. I went to little Catholic school in Emmitsburg, Maryland, called Mount St. Mary's College. My mother was a dedicated Catholic to Blessed Mother. I went to Mount St. Mary's College and St. Mary's University in Texas, and that's just the way it was going to be. And there was no other way. But my father drops me off in August to go to school with my mom, and I came home for Thanksgiving, and my hair was down to here. And my father picked me up at the airport, besides the fact I didn't have a shirt, tie, and jacket on, and said, I sent a Robert to school in August, and now I have a Roberta that just came home. So if you would like the munge, you're going to see Bruno to cut your hair, who put a bowl on your head, and everything that was around it just shaved off. Why do I tell these stories? Because this is the memories that we have. At 66 years old, we hold on to these things. Growing up in the 60s was a time of revolt and rebellion. Every generation has done it. We see it going on now in a different way. It's like when I do a jury trial, I will say to a jury, ladies and gentlemen, I know that you're told to leave your emotions at the door. But I also know that we have life experiences. When you are sitting down with a husband and wife and talking about taking equity from their home and putting money in their pocket, they're not thinking about the money. They're thinking about, what if something happens to one of them? What happens to my spouse I leave behind? What happens to my inheritance that I want to leave for my children? How does it affect them? How is it? How does this play into my estate planning? How does it all impact my overall life that I have worked years for? I remember in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where people worked 30 years to get a 13-week paid vacation. That's the generation you're talking to. We were raised by people from World War II that loved this country and taught us certain things. We had the assassination of the president. We had the free love. All of these different things. And of course, then in the 70s, we were either teenagers or we were in our early 20s. We had all these different things going on. The world seemed chaotic. And I look back now, the world was not even close to being chaotic then. Vietnam War, I remember every Thursday morning. I just can't, it's so vivid in my mind. And I share these stories with you because I want you to understand, any baby boomer in this room, if you want to talk to them, they're going to tell you that what I'm saying is what is inside of us. You cannot erase the foundation of the person you are talking to because of the age. And as you grow older, just like things that affected you at this time in your life as a younger person, you will also be faced with that memory when you're older. Some good memories, some bad memories. You had the Vietnam War, the Watergate. I worked right across the street. I was a senatorial aide in 1972-73, volunteer for Mark Hatfield. I was right across the street when Watergate break-in took place. And now we have other things that we're faced with in our country. So many of us became idealistic. This is the way things should be, as young people all do. Everybody should get along. Everybody should do these things. And that's how it went. The divorce rate went through the roof. Unheard of. Unheard of in the old generation. But then it happened. Now we enter the workforce. I always have told my children that when you're in your 30s, you don't even, when you're in your 20s, you don't know you're alive. When you're in your 30s, you start understanding what you have to do to earn your living. We had all these different things going on, and I share these things with you just so you get a sense of the history of the people you're dealing with. There's no reason to educate you about HECM because you understand what it is. It's more to try to grasp what we believe the people you're dealing with. Now we became middle-aged in the 90s. Low-income couples. They have kids coming home, a mom's there. Changed because of necessities, because you want to make life better, or just because you couldn't survive without it. People working. It was the 90s were good years in our country, and so forth. But then we had the Gulf War. And then real TV shows started. If you remember Roseanne and the Wonder Years. So there was this whole transition that was happening. And technology occurred. Technical revolution. And at that time, not to the way it is today, but it surely was the beginning. It's before social media, smartphones. The 2000s now, we're starting to really sort of grow up and recognizing the responsibilities and what life is really about, and even some of us with grandchildren. Technology changed, the smartphones, the laptops, everything changed. Those things where we were kids as baby boomers, where we had neighborhoods where you would go outside and play stickball and football. Now they're sitting down in their neighborhoods, become computers and iPads and cell phones and Minecraft and everything else. I actually heard the other day one of the scariest things, I was talking to these gentlemen before, that there was a person on TV on Fox the other day that said that at some point they will be able to insert a chip into our brain in the future. Not my brain, I can tell you that. I'll shoot it before that will happen. Sorry about that. It's either an Italian thing or it's just a thing. And it will be Google. Google will have a chip, so if you want an answer to a question, you'll hit it and it'll come to you immediately. I am sure that was not the good Lord's intention, okay? But that is how extreme it could be. My career in television, I started with Fox News in 1996. I was actually the second legal analyst they hired. It's a quick story. I sent a video in to Fox News. I've done local TV in Las Vegas since 1985, just informing people on the law. And I sent this in, and I forgot I even sent it, and I get a phone call from, at that time, Mr. Ells' assistant, and Chet Collier, who founded Fox News. And I'm on the phone, and they said, "Is this Mr. Massi?" I said, "Yes, it is." They said, "Well, Mr. Ells and Mr. Collier would like to talk to you." And I'm saying, "Well, what about?" They said, "Well, this is from Fox News." I forgot I even sent the video in. And the first thing they said to me, they said, "Hey, kid, I like your style, but your hair's a little long." And I said, "Well, for every 0, I'll cut an inch off my hair. I'm not that attached to it." And so began my career at Fox News. I said to that one guy there, "I love this guy, he has long hair." It was like during the Michael Jackson case, Tom Mesereau, who represented Michael Jackson, he and I became friends after, because everybody said, "Are you Tom Mesereau?" I said, "No, I'm the reporter, he's the lawyer over there." So he had long hair. 2008 is when everything changed in this country with the recession with real estate. And this is when my career went to the next level, because I started doing a segment on Fox and Friends every Thursday morning called Shattered Dreams. Because I went to them and I said, "Look, we need to let the people know what's going on and how to deal with this crisis in America, and what loan modifications are and how short sales are and what you need to do." And that sort of launched the whole real estate thing. And then from there, I started doing a segment called Rebuilding Your Dreams to try to help people, and then went, of course, to the show. This recession in 2008 is really something that you have to deal with the baby boomers on HECM, because trust me, I have talked to hundreds, if not thousands, who lost it all. Lost it all. Lost their 401ks. Lost their IRAs. Not only helping themselves, but helping their children try to save their homes while they saw the government give billions of dollars out, which I have to say in some regards was necessary, because it could have been worse. So I am not critical, I'm just saying that, but the homeowner felt abandoned, who tried the loan modified, who tried the short sell, who tried to talk to the same person twice in a row, whose paperwork was lost, who was made to feel as if that they were a criminal because they basically aren't able to make the payment, who worked their whole life to build their credit and are being told that you have to default in order to see if you could save your home, only then finding out that regardless of that, you are not going to be able to save your home. Those are the people you're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. That is a contingency that you are dealing with. And that is as real and as raw today in 2018 as it was in 08, 09, 010, and all the way through. And trust me when I tell you, the same mistake that was made back then is happening right now. It's happening right now in our country with another boom and another bubble. It may not be to the extent that it was, but people want to own. You are dealing with the emotion of a baby boomer raised by the great generation, raised where people would sit down face to face and talk and discuss things, lost everything, and now are rebuilding their life. And did get to the point where there was equity in a home, and there was a way to do it. I've always wondered what genius came up with the word reverse mortgage. So I decided to take a look at several definitions. So as an adjective, opposite or contrary to previous or normal conditions. Acting, operating, arrange in a manner contrary to the usual. Let me sit down and explain to you a reverse mortgage. that is opposite or contrary to previous or normal conditions and acting and operating or arranged in a manner contrary to the usual. Let me sell you that package. And I'm going to say, get the hell out of my house. That's the adjective. Now let's look at the verb. To turn completely around in a position or direction. To turn upside down. To opposite point of view, to overthrow. So not are you only dealing with a generation that was raised in such a way of foundation and values and all these other things. You're now coming in and talking about HECM, okay, which again, I understand it's different, but it's the same. But even HECM, the word HECM is like HECM. You know, it's like, really, it's 2018, HECM. Okay, whoever came up with that, they need to pay the guy a little more money to change even that. And then we have the noun. Opposite, how about this? Or the back part of something. Really. I don't know if I want your job. I have to tell you. I don't know if I want your job. Now, here's some of the headlines I just pulled out in the last 6 to 8 months. U.S. News and World Report, Dave Ramsey. These are some of the sources. 6 drawbacks of reverse mortgages, front page. Ugly truths of reverse mortgages. Loan modifications, good or bad. More seniors are taking loans against their homes. Big jump in reverse mortgages, foreclosure raises alarm. This is what you're dealing with. Just because you have Tom Selleck that did Magnum P.I. 35 years ago, which when you watch it is like one of the worst shows you've ever seen, but at that time was good. That the old day when the guys wore the shorts right around their rear end, like Jimmy Connors and then in tennis, dear God, whoever their people were, and they're running around on a beach in Hawaii with the bird on their frickin' shoulder and all that stuff. You know, come on, really? You know, smoking dope or whatever they're doing and flying in airplanes. I mean, he's on now, God bless Mr. Selleck. Blue Bloods is a great story, which is interesting because it goes back to the exact thing I'm talking about, family, sitting down, talking about things. This is what you're dealing with. So why do they use these personalities to sell it? Because it's the character, the personality figure. If Mr. Selleck says it, which is a tremendous credible man, then that's going to sell it. What's going to sell it is how you make us feel. That's what's going to sell it. I own my house free and clear. I've thought many times about calling Josh and saying, Josh, you know what? It is a huge quantum leap for me. I could take that money. I could put it in the stock market. I could be using it more. But for me, still I'm at that mindset of old school. You have to make me feel, Mr. Massi, your home is free and clear, but the money that I give you because of this is what is good that you can do with it, and you still have plenty of equity left. That is so important because the mindset of reverse mortgages for most of us in the past, ladies and gentlemen, has been that if you do a reverse mortgage, that your name comes off the deed, that you have no equity, that when you die, the property's gone, that your family will have any rights in the house whatsoever, that they'll lose the house immediately. And you know, in some regards, old time, some of those things were in your world. Where if somebody, my understanding is, if there was a spouse that was under 62, they could potentially be forced out of the home. Bottom line is, these are the things that you have to overcome in order to be able to get me to call you back and say, okay, we've talked about it. I feel better about it. I feel safe. That's what we want to feel. We want to feel safe. It's not even about the money, guys. It's not even about that. It's about feeling safe. It's almost like it's a guilt thing that you're taking money out of something you worked your whole life for. And now you're mortgaging it again. You have to distinguish to us the difference between a mortgage and a home equity loan versus a HECM. You have to explain to us how it works and why we don't have the risk. That that you don't have to make the payment every month, that these are the responsibilities you have to pay the insurance, you have to pay this. And there's even mechanisms where you could set a certain amount aside. You've got to cut into the security and the safety because of where we came from. The crisis, as I said, everybody lost everything. There's people now in their 70s that are working. I always feel so bad sometimes. So bad. You know, you go to shopping malls and you see people in their 70s and working. They're healthy 70s. Nothing wrong with working. But it's when you hear the stories of why they have to work, because they lost everything. It's very, very sad, but it's very true. Some people may be aloof with that concept. I tell a story about the 2,000-year-old man. 2,000-year-old man was speaking in front of a bunch of elementary students. And the topic was the greatest tragedy that ever happened to the 2,000-year-old man. And one little boy stood up and said, 2,000-year-old man, was it the Revolutionary War? Oh, he said, no. That wasn't a tragedy. And another little girl stood up and said, well, was it World War I or World War II? Oh, he said, no. Little boy in the back said, well, Mr. 2,000-year-old man, what's the greatest tragedy that ever happened to you? He said, the greatest tragedy ever happened to me is I cut my finger. Because everything else that happened to somebody else. But when I cut my finger, that was a tragedy to me. The things that you have seen in the last 10 years in this country, just think about this. Other than all the crap we listen to, go back and see how much of the news concern real estate and homes. It is consuming. It was covered all day long on television, all the networks, all the newspapers, all the magazines, all the internet, people losing their homes. That is what you're dealing with. When you walk into a home, just remember this. You're approaching the boomer that was raised by the greatest generation of all time. We have an old school mentality. Know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Your product is the customer, not what you're selling. Not what you're selling. People love stories. Tell them a successful story. Tell them the story about here. Take this video. Show it to people. And by the way, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid has been logged against it as reverse mortgage. Own it and explain it and take that fear away. You'll find, those of you young people out there, as you get older, there is no more gray area. Everything becomes black and white, besides your hair. Just so you know. And don't be a salesperson. I had a guy call me about 3 weeks ago, unsolicited, at my office about a reverse mortgage. And he started trying to sell me. And I said, you know what, man? You're really going down the wrong way. Don't try to sell me. First of all, I know who I'm going to call when I do it anyway. So I think there may have been one more slide, but it may be stuck. I don't know if it's stuck or not. Is there any more slides? There was one more maybe. I teach a course, a workshop. This is the last thing, and then we'll put the panel together. I teach a day-and-a-half workshop in Las Vegas on how to deal with the media and build your business. The media, local media in particular, is right in front of you to help you sell your product. Now, I recognize in your industry there are guidelines, but that's not what I'm talking about. Local media always are looking for personality. They are always looking for somebody that's willing to go onto their TV show in the morning and give information about a product. In the course that I teach, I show them how do you approach the news director, how do you approach the booker, how do you approach the producer, how do you approach from radio to TV to newspapers to local magazines without literally costing you a dime. I started in 1985 in local TV and marketed myself on radio and local TV since '85. It never cost me a dime because I made an inroad and developed relationships with the media people. Don't hesitate to look at that. You don't have to go, obviously, it never hurts to establish yourself with a PR firm that has a relationship with the media. But what I'm telling you is that if you want to become a known, respected personality, think about the people that you watch on morning television that come on as guests in different areas of interest. I'm on every week, Mondays and Wednesdays, on the local Fox station, on a segment called Inside the Law. I do it on 5 o'clock news. I do it on a 7 o'clock news every Wednesday morning. I go on for 3.5 minutes and I educate people on the law. Those things are available to you. You just have to develop the relationship with the local media so that when there is a HECM issue, or there is a reverse mortgage issue, or there is whatever, you're the person they will call and say, come on and talk about this today. Or maybe develop a segment, or a vignette on the radio, or whatever it may be. Use those things right in front of you to build your credibility. Because trust me, if you want to sell it to me, you're going to have credibility. And if you're on a local TV station, think of those people that we all watch every single day that we trust and believe. Not recently, it hasn't been real good on national TV. However, in general. One last thing, then I'll go. I tell this story, I'm sort of like Red Skelton. I laugh at my own jokes. But ladies are going to appreciate this story. So, when we covered Scott Peterson, there was a juror on there that we named Strawberry Shortcake. She has a little strawberry shortcake. She's boom, 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 boom. She comes in every day and bounces around. She's on the jury, and everybody, we just said Strawberry Shortcake. That's what we named her. So the verdict comes out, and we had the chance to interview all the jurors. So we're sitting there, we're talking to the jurors. I said, you know what? I said, is there any one thing that brought you to the point of a conviction? Did any one thing hang out at all? Strawberry shortcake. So okay, here we go. Now the theory was that she was killed and taken to the bay, put obviously in a barrel and out to sea. And Lacey loved sunflower seeds, sunflowers, any kind of sunflowers. So there was activity on the computer the next day as if she was alive. And so there was evidence that was put in by the defense that, look, there's a computer, and there's buying a purse or buying shoes with sunflowers on, all that kind of stuff. So Strawberry Shortcake says, did you happen to see the pictures of the master bedroom, which is where one of the computers is located? Well, we didn't get to see it. Oh, she said, well, you have to look at it. She said, because no woman made that bed. I looked at one of my colleagues and said, you got convicted because the bed wasn't made right. No woman made that bed. And I'll be damned. If you look at that picture, there ain't nothing even on that bed. The sheets are down here, the bedspread's up here, the pillows are over there, and you ladies love to put 50 pillows on the bed anyway. Never figured out where that came from. No idea. You know, could be a separation of power, you know, who knows? But the bottom line is, imagine, just imagine. Thank you for today. I can't stress to you enough what I said at the beginning. It's what you leave in their heart when you walk out the door. It's how you make us feel. And if you make us feel safe and secure, you've really hit not just a base hit, you've hit a grand slam. Thank you very much. I think we're going to have the panel now. Scott, or we do the panel now? Do we have time to do it?
Yes.
Let's do it.
And if there's questions, I'm assuming also somebody wants to ask questions to the panel, or so we sort of broke it down into some categories, and as to what from the finance perspective, relationship driven. Now, Scott, you're a realtor,
Correct.
and you're in selling reverse mortgages as Josh.
Right.
Okay. All right. So how are you guys marketing yourself to your customers right now? Let's take from a realtor's perspective. Like, how do you get your customers? How do you approach them to even think about it?
I think it's just making them aware of what's available out there. I started in the mortgage business doing all forward, so there's different products for different people. So I look at it as it's just another product for another person. So it gives them another option to look at instead of the traditional 48s already that I grew up with. My mom and dad, 30-year fix, that's it, that's all you do, you pay off your house like you said. But now everything has changed. So if somebody can have a different option and use that equity to their advantage and take that pressure off them or have some money coming in from a different direction, I think that's the most important thing, educating them.
So from the financing, how do you make them understand that HECM is better and how it works? Because when I first even when we first did the show and I was listening to HECM, I didn't say, wait a second, you could actually buy a home with HECM. You guys got to explain, how do you approach that to your customer?
I think that is our challenge, right? Is the education, the information, that knowledge, and again, trying to share information and educate and not sort of overly sell is really what we're all trying to do all the time, and talking with the consumer specifically about the HECM for purchase. It's educating the realtors and educating the borrowers as well to understand just what a great product is. But you have to be able to take that time and be able to really get in front of them. Ideally, to go back to what you were saying, Bob, is get that face-to-face and be able to have time to explain and go over it. It's not really a product you can see a snippet of 3 or 4 bullet points on a brochure. You really need to get out there and have more of a relationship to educate better.
What are the most common questions or objections initially, particularly initially? When you guys go in, what's some of the things you consistently hear? If you took 10 couples, what's 2 or 3 of the most consistent things you hear?
Well, you hit on earlier on what we were talking about, what we all hear, which is title. Like, you take the title. Those still exist, and everyone here that's ever spoken to the customer about the HECM and the HECM for purchase, we're always overcoming this, right? So they're always there. On the purchase side, I think it's real important that you make them understand it in terms that they understand. We often, get into HECM and reverse mortgages and non-recourse, and we talk about all of these. Customer doesn't understand that, so we got to put it in the terms that they understand. The questions, back to your question, Bob. What I always often hear is, we worry a lot about the equity. Hey, you need to educate me on the equity piece, and we'll talk about that a little later, especially now with all of the changes. I think that's a better value proposition.
Absolutely,
to the customer.
From what I've read, yes.
Yeah, so that's a big one, equity retention. And what we talked about earlier, we're still, since 1989, still trying to overcome the old issues. We still have them, the present today.
It is remarkable how it's been persistent. But I think the reason why it is, if I may, It's just because of who you're dealing with. I mean, because of stuff like this so deep, like with your mom and dad, I'm sure, or whatever, you know. How does the dynamic of the HECM work with builders? Like, you guys approach builders I mean, builders, well, I could do 5 hours on builders, but, you know, how do you approach it?
That's a good one, and that's, I've been fortunate enough to, well, that's really been a big portion of my charter. And look, you're dealing with a group that has a captured audience, right? And, you know, different from the realtor side of captured audience. We think of it as, wow, that's pretty low-hanging fruit. Here's the hard part. You got to get the builder to understand first their value proposition. What's in it for me, right? What is their value? How is it going to help them sell more homes? Once you explain to them how it's going to start with incremental sales and capture a customer, they are currently today not captured. They can't, right? Unless they offer this. Once you get there, the hard part is teaching their salespeople how to bring it up in conversation, because they're not like us. They're not financing. They're not in the financing world, in the reverse mortgage world. And as we've talked, Bob, it's highly consultative. So how do you do that, right? And there's ways to do it.
When you say highly consultative, what do you mean by that?
So to Josh's point, you got to sit down. It's not a quick transactional sale like a traditional mortgage, right? Everyone knows it. We have to sit down and consult them. We have to explain things. We have to go through all of the, usually, getting over the hurdles of, oh, this is a bad loan. Tell me why. What's so bad about it? Let's get over that. Then they bring their dukes down a little bit if you can get inside, to your point, and talk to them, and not just sit there with the alligator mouth and just start spewing out everything about reverse mortgages. Listen to what they're trying to accomplish. And once we get to that point, then we start getting into, okay, the potential or possible advantages. It's not going to be the winner in every case. It's another option, right? It's another option that I think it's up to us, you know, and we're doing a disservice if we do not let them know about this option. Because a lot of people want to move or need to move and they can't.
I do a lot of estate planning, wills and trusts and things, and I always bring it up in estate planning. I say, look, you know, this is part of an estate plan. One of the things you need to develop a relationship with, ladies and gentlemen, is estate planning lawyers. Because it is a component of a discussion for purposes of, if they know that there's somebody out there where a lawyer can say, listen, part of this estate plan is you have a home that has, it's paid for. Why don't you talk to one of these gentlemen? Let them explain it to you. Because if you sell it that it's the end all and this is the only thing out there, you have to explain it to them that it is a component of a decision to be made. Estate planning lawyers could be a very good market for you to approach.
I think you hit the nail on the head with it being part of the whole package. That your home, for many people, is the largest piggy bank they have. Maybe it's the second largest, but for a lot of people, it's the largest. The expense of it, if you're not free and clear, the payment itself, just with regards to the cash flow, your monthly cash flow, it is part of the broader picture. And looking at your estate, looking at your financial plan, looking at your cash flow on a monthly basis, it's really putting it all out on the table, looking at it all, analyzing, assessing where things are, and determining where the reverse mortgage can impact, can help, can improve different aspects depending on the overall long-term plan. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine came up with an idea a few years ago on this in Las Vegas, where we called it a tour and train. So we would do seminars with the realtors. So he was in the lending business. So, and only a small division of his company did reverse mortgages. So I said, Mike, I said, why don't we do a seminar with the realtors every Monday? And let's rent a bus, 20, 30 minibus. Let's take them to the developers. So we did. The developers thought they died and went to heaven. Because twice a month, we go talk to realtors, we put their RINs in the bus, and we take them to the developments. So now the realtors become the soldiers. And now, with HECM and that, the developers have a captive audience and they're interested because these are realtors not going to go out and start to sell the product. So you have to really think outside the box in so many ways. Now, in your profession as the realtor, my biggest frustration, and you're a competent guy, no disrespect to anybody in realtors, no disrespect.
Here it comes.
But,
Get ready.
no, I mean, I'll be gentle. But my biggest problem is, and you experience it, it's just like bad lawyers, bad HECM people, that they make it bad for guys like you to try to do it right. So you have to overcome as a realtor that, oh, you're just not concerned with your commission. Because remember, the first question a lot of people are going to ask, I think, and that's why I wanted to ask you, how do they start talking, talk about the boomer, on it, they start talking about fees initially, what it's going to cost for the closing, or is that usually, because you're going to get some people that say, well, how much is it going to cost me? So where does that come up, and how do you handle it?
I mean, it certainly comes up on the
Sure.
front end. You know, I would say my personal experience is the ownership, title,
Is the big
equity thing comes up generally sooner, but that could differ depending on who and kind of person. But that's always a big one. I want to own my home. I want to keep my home. I want to have something for my heirs, for my kids, and this is going to take it away. Once you've hopefully done an adequate job addressing that, next is, okay, well, I've heard this has a ton of fees on it. So it sort of comes right in the next step.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I always say, you know, having children, having 3 great kids, I say to myself, you know, some of them you just don't want to get involved with this discussion because some of them could view it, oh, you take it away from what I'm going to get that mentality too. So sometimes there's some kids, some parents may say, I want my kids involved. And sometimes I'm sure that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. So my question to all of you is, at what point or at any point do you decide, once you feel your client, and God bless you, it's a Catholic thing, sorry. At what point do you say, would you like us to sit down with any of your family to discuss this in more detail? Or do you let them bring that issue to you?
I do it immediately. I would like to make sure that they feel comfortable. And if they may feel intimidated, so you have a financial advisor you work with, an accountant, family member, your kids, would you like to have them attend when we first meet? That's how I would do myself to do it.
I think just expound on that you have to ask them, what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve here? Regardless if it's a forward or reverse, when I talk to people and they want to go look at homes, you know, have you got qualified? What area do you want to be in? Make them feel comfortable and let them know that, you know, this is a relationship. We're not buying a tube of toothpaste. You know, this is going to be something that is going to be important for them, their future, their family. And if you sit down with them, figure out what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve, I think that kind of brings people back at ease and lets them know that you're actually taking a real interest in them. And I always kind of go a little bit further and let them know that for me, when I first got into the real estate side, I had a great mentor, and they always told me that the money is not in the deal, the money's in the referrals.
No doubt.
And so I've always kept that mentality. I grew up in the Midwest, so it's kind of in my DNA to help. So that's kind of how I go.
Yeah, I think that there's so many components to this. Josh, or all of you, before we finish, what's the biggest change you're excited about? I know October 2nd, a lot of things happen.
Yeah, a lot of things change. I think what all of us in the industry are excited about is what we hope and see and feel is a continued acceptance of the product. We're hoping and seeing some positive news out there. The safety of the product, the potential for issues has been so dramatically reduced by all of the changes that it is truly a great product. And all of the issues, I would say, over the past however many years, this, that, whatever complaints, whatever rumors, it's all been addressed one way or the other, either by the industry itself or by FHA, the government with the regulation.
Sure.
Like it or don't like it, we are where we are.
Yeah.
And the product is an outstanding product, and it's just getting out to more and more people, getting in front of more and more people, not being afraid of including the family, including everyone, other advisors, answering all the questions, being open, being honest, being upfront. That's the key to making this work. And the other thing, traditional mortgage people are probably overjoyed at rates starting to trickle up, but for me personally, it's good for us. We sort of look and say, okay, so the refinances sort of quiet down. We can look at things like HECM repurchase. It'll be more open-minded to other mortgage companies and people out there. And the purchase market and real estate world is continuing to be incredibly strong, and this product can really change the lives of people using the HECM to buy a home.
One of the things, other things I'll just mention, besides the media stuff, don't hesitate. Financial advisors are very interesting people. Anybody here a financial advisor? Okay, so I can be very open. So financial advisors are very proprietary because they want to put everything into the equity market and that kind of stuff. You convince a financial advisor, but by getting that money, it's going to come to you to invest. That's your next best friend. So estate planning lawyers, financial advisors, get to the local media. I'm telling you, local magazines that look for articles. They're always looking for articles. Somebody read an article. Go to your local magazines, and all of a sudden you become that person of interest. The last thing is, I've had a big issue because of the TV stuff. People see people certain things. As you know, because you're on TV, they think, oh, this and that. Facebook Live has really helped my business. I do a Facebook Live almost every week. It personalizes you. Do a Facebook Live. You know, just do a Facebook Live. Business, not personal, just business. And do it once a week. People look forward to it. Educate them. Personalizes you. People, look, we're human beings. We want information. And it's free. And you're giving it free. So they will look and say, you know what? Geez, Scott and Rob and John, you know, it makes a difference. The more you become out there, the more trust you build. And that build takes down the hurdle because now, obviously, referrals are the best. If I say, hey, Josh is my guy, Josh's going to call you, they're going to say, okay, Bob's the Josh's guy, I want to talk to Josh because I know Josh, you know, is going to do the right thing. Same thing with Scott, same thing with Rob. They're referral based. But face-to-face Facebook Live stuff, I think I boosted it cost me $250 or $300 a week, goes to all, you can categorize exactly who you want it to go to. What age bracket, how much money they make, and just shoot it out there. Sit at your desk and just do it. It makes a difference. These are the things you've got to do to be able to inform people on the product. Anything else, Kelly? Okay, we got time. I want you guys to keep going, man. I'm okay.
Well, I would add to that. I would also say that if you're getting out there, I mean, doing the Facebook, social media, television, but I also think that you have to be in front of people on a regular basis, whether it's taking that mentality, anybody that's done forward mortgages, taking that mentality of being an AE, of going out and calling on loan officers and real estate agents and setting up an hour to come in and say, look, I want to teach everybody in your company about reverse mortgages or the HECM and how they can gain more money from that. Me as a branch manager, absolutely. I mean, come on in anytime.
Anytime.
And you know, that way I know when I'm going out and talking to people, if they can't buy it, but they've got all this equity, now I can give them options. Hey, have you thought about this? You know, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I can refer you to, you know, some people, and then you have options where you can put, let's just, for conversation's sake, put 50% down, and I got another 50% where you can go out and put it on another house. They can Airbnb it, have some positive cash flow. They just get their mind working. So I would say, you know, don't be shy in going out and asking for real estate agents either.
Yeah, the painful, God, the painful seminars that we probably all have done are the ones where you go out to the public and you give seminars. And man, I got to tell you, they all show up, and they all show up for the next one, and the next one for the donuts and the coffee. It's like a bingo thing. It's like everybody shows up. And I finally got to the point, what you're saying. You're going to go out and speak, or you're going to go target that market. Go to people that's going to help sell your product. Because, you know, I mean, if Scott's my real estate guy, let's say, look, go see Scott. He's going to explain to you. Go see John, and it works. It's really good. And I assume where you guys are, you build a team, I would imagine, of people amongst yourself, realtors, and things like that, correct? So how important is building a team, even outside yourselves?
Yeah, I think that's key. I think the bottom line is just reaching out to the realtors, establishing those relationships. I think sometimes there's a perception among mortgage people that a lot of the realtors understand the product, or they must understand the product, or how can they not know about it? It's no slam on realtors at all, that they don't, none of them know about it. It is something that is still very unknown. They see it as something that's more complicated than it is, and it is getting out in front of those groups. I know a lot of people, a lot of different brokers, relationships we have out there who go and speak to groups of realtors. They even try to get their lesson approved as, you know, the CE credits for the realtors, and then they can hit up different realtor groups one by one, go out and see them, go out and do an hour or 2 or 3 hour presentation on the HECM for purchase, and a lot of them, their minds are blown. They just didn't understand it, weren't clear on it, no different than a borrower, to be honest. And once they learn about it, it's actually been incredibly impactful for them. But it's like the both said, it's getting in front of them over and over again. That's the case.
I got a little bit different take, and I agree with everything Josh has said in regards to the education piece. But we've been doing that, the CE's portion of realtors, since 2009. How many loans have we done? This year will be one of the highest, the most endorsed loans, and we'll be somewhere around, where were we, 2,800-ish out of the entire industry purchases, which is, by the way, guys, the best we've ever done, right? So we have 1.2 million licensed realtors across the country. Last year, I was telling, I think Josh last night, there were about 1.2 million sales to people, and these are resales, to people over the age of 62 last year, just resales. Probably have another 30 to 40 active adult new construction buyers last year. And then you have a whole nother number that I can't find, which are age-targeted new construction that aren't zoned active adult. So we have a huge audience. So why aren't we doing any more loans, right? This is what I usually get when talking to people is, well, Rob, you know, at a tactical level, what do we do? This is great. We can educate them, but how do we get them to move? So I'll give you my opinions. You know what they say about opinions, right? So for the builder and realtor, there's different value props, right? It's still the same product, but it's a little bit different value propositions. As we were mentioning earlier, your builder, everybody's here. If you've got a builder in your area and they do not have a mortgage financing company, because a lot of the big boys that we all know, Pulte, Lennar, you know, the top $1 billion a year builders, they all have their own mortgage company. So it's tough getting in there, right? Go to the realtors that work with them. Every one of them, every builder, salesperson is chartered with building out their business with realtors. 50% is the national average of new home construction is a referral from an outside realtor that they work with. Go to the realtors. Rob, I don't have any building, you know, that I have the big boys, I can't get anywhere. I hear that a lot in Florida. Go to the realtors. Start working with the realtors, doing some of the things that Bob talked about earlier about the van and taking them out. That's an awesome idea. You know, that's outside the box. Go to the realtors, understand the value prop. Do you guys understand the value prop to the realtor? What is it? They do not, and Scott, you could probably talk to this way better than I, but if you're selling someone that has, you know, the champagne taste with the beer budget, you're going to spend a lot of time showing homes, which is, you know, not conducive to building a good business. So if you can talk to them about how you could utilize the HECM to sort of show this person that has, you know, they have $200,000, but they want the $350,000 home. Well, guess what? Now you have an option that might work for them, right? It might not. Here's another thing real quick, and I hope I don't capitalize on this thing. For realtors. So when you're talking to them and you're giving them the education, right? You know, and they're all like, wow, to Josh's point, their jaws are down here. I didn't know about it. This is hard to believe. Well, then they go home, and I liken it to the Anthony Robbins seminars, where everyone's jazzed up and they're ready to go, and then 2 days later they forget everything that happened, right? Life gets in the way, right? And things, and then they forget, oh yeah, I remember that. I don't know I have no idea what I'm going to say to talk about the HECM or the reverse mortgage, so I'm just not going to say anything. And they don't. They don't. So what could we do? We have to push the realtor. we have to, and I was telling Scott this earlier, we have to, once we go through them and they're like this, right? Okay, guys, how many of you been trying to show homes to people 60 years of age or older, 62? How many of them have never moved forward with the transaction? So after this, you and I are